Ineos's massive summer clear-out starts now. It's time to say goodbye to Anthony Martial and Raphael Varane, and are Napoli set to submit a bid for Mason Greenwood? These are some of the stories we will be discussing on this morning's live show. But before we get into that, please smash a like on today's video. Let's try and see 200 likes on today's show. And if this is your first time watching, make sure you subscribe as well. We'll be live every single day throughout the whole of the transfer window between 11 a.m. We'll be live at 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. throughout the whole transfer window. So make sure you get involved. If there's any breaking news, we'll obviously go live as well. So yeah, get involved with that. Let's start with some positivity then. Why not? And obviously, the obvious positive story to talk about is last night's game, 3-2 victory over Newcastle. And you know what? I actually think we played really well. I think Amad Diallo was incredible. I think Amrabat did really well. I think Mainu did well. Who else did well? I think Rasmus Højlund did well when he came on. Like overall, Bruno was obviously absolutely spectacular. Overall, it was a really good team performance. I think we deserved the win in the end. I think when you consider that all the injuries we have, you know, even if you look at our defence last night, you had a 32-year-old midfielder in as a centre-back, Casemiro. You had Johnny Evans, who's apparently injured, 36, and was released by a championship team last summer as your centre-back. You had a right-back at left-back, and you had Wan-Bissaka, who most people don't think should be at the club anyway. Like when you put that on the comparison to Newcastle had two actual centre backs playing, an actual left back and an actual right back. You know, they actually had people in their correct positions. They've got a strong attack. They've got Isaac, Anthony Gordon. They've got a good midfield. Like Newcastle were pretty much full strength, minus obviously the goalkeeper and Sandro Tonali, who's obviously been suspended. And I think we did really, really well. I'm really happy that we got the win. In all honesty, it probably doesn't really mean too much in the grand scheme of things because, you know, for us to get sixth place is going to be very, very difficult. Obviously, at the moment, Chelsea are in sixth place. We're not going to be able to catch them. Their goal difference is plus 13 and ours is minus 10. So unless we went and beat Brighton like 10-0 or something, but that's not going to happen. We've just got to try and get that seventh place. But at the same time, we still have the chance of qualifying for the Europa if we win the FA Cup. So we still have something to play for. And overall, I was really happy with the performance. I was. But I want you guys to let me know, what did you think of last night's performance? It's just good to win again as well. Like, I know that's a little bit basic to look at it like that, but I think we did deserve to win yesterday. I did. Let's see what people are saying in the chat quickly. Lumen says, was Erik ten Hag wrong for not giving enough game time to Amrabat? I think what you have to consider here is, right, obviously Amrabat's looked good the last couple of games, but Casemiro was a £70 million signing, and Casemiro and Amrabat play in the same position, so it's easy for us to say, oh, Amrabat should play all the rest of it, but then that would mean Casemiro would be sat on the bench, and then everyone would be saying, why is Casemiro not playing? So this is the problem at competitive level sport. There's always going to be one player who misses out. The only reason Amrabat is playing is because we have so many injuries in defence and Casemiro is having to play in defence, you know? That's the only reason that that Amrabat's had an opportunity these last couple of games, and he has looked good. So maybe Erik ten Hag should have, you know, taken a risk earlier on in the season and said, you know what, Casemiro, you're not very good anymore. I'm going to play Amrabat instead. But I just think that, you know, if you buy a player for £70 million and he did really, really well last season, you have to kind of give him some, you know, you have to give him minutes, don't you? What have we got? Let's see what else people are saying in the chat. Comeback King says, would you keep Amrabat for a backup player next season? I probably wouldn't keep Amrabat, to be honest with you. I think he did well last night, but it's going to cost us, I think, £21 million to sign him. Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, maybe, but I don't think Man United will, personally. Yeah, I think £21 million is maybe a little bit too much. He's 28. Well, he's turning 28 next month. He's probably got 2 or 3 years left at the kind of level that he was last night. I don't think it's the kind of signing that Ineos are going to go for, personally. I think they're going to look at younger profile players. You know, they want to build a team for the future. And Amrabat is very much a player for now. And if he's not even going to be starting, then what's the point? I don't know. It's difficult because him and Kobe Mainu is the kind of more, you know, a midfield three of Mainu, Amrabat and Bruno, I think is pretty well balanced. So, yeah, I don't know. Would I sign him personally? I mean, it depends, doesn't it? There's 2 more games left of the season. If he does really well against Brighton and does really well against Man City and we win the FA Cup, then it'll be difficult to say to get rid of him because he'll have proven that he can do it at the very top. Now, effectively, last night's game, obviously he played well and he played well against Arsenal, but we still lost against Arsenal. And last night, although we won the game, I don't want to say it didn't really mean anything, but we're effectively battling for 7th place and we might not even get 7th place. So like, do you know what I'm saying here? It's not like he's just come off the back of playing in a semi-final of the Champions League and put in a 10 out of 10 performance. Like, obviously night's game was important. It was very important. We got the win, but I think the biggest test is going to be this FA Cup final. If Amrabat absolutely bosses that midfield, bosses Rodri, and we end up winning the FA Cup, then I think he's got a real case for keeping him next season. But I just don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. Like, he hasn't played much this season. And as it stands at the moment, 28 years of age, I don't think he's probably the right profile to be signing on a permanent, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. It's difficult. Richard says, Amrabat did play well last night, but I think we need a defensive midfielder with pace. I would agree with you there, mate. He is a little bit slow. Fran says, we need to look at the 2 second-half goals for next season. So many teams have come back from decent leads. I would keep Amrabat. Fair enough. Everyone who's just joined the chat, by the way, please make sure to smash a like on today's video and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Let's try and hit 200 likes on today's show. So make sure you go and hit the like button now. It doesn't cost you any money, so there's no reason why you shouldn't do it. But yeah, thank you in advance for that. Let me see what else people are saying in the chat. I'll come back to the chat in a minute. Let's talk a little bit about Ten Hag, talk about his future. So I would still say at the moment it's 50-50 whether Erik Ten Hag will be the manager next season. I think the fan base in majority want him to stay. We've got a poll going on the channel at the moment. 89% of you want Ten Hag to stay and 11% of you want him gone. I think my stance is this, right? Given our current position, given our injuries, given the lack of replacements in the managerial position, I think Erik Ten Hag definitely deserves another season. I think without a shadow of a doubt, he won us our first trophy last year in 6 years. He got us top 4 last year, albeit we didn't have injuries and we did well. This season, being completely honest, right, and this isn't me trying to be funny, when you look at the team that we've had for most of this season, which has been either Maguire and Johnny Evans or or Evans and Casemiro as a defensive setup, I mean, do you really think that the team that we have at the moment is a team that should be finishing higher than 7th or 8th? I don't think so. If you've got a 36-year-old Johnny Evans as your main centre-back, you've got Casemiro at the age of 32 playing at centre-back, you've not had a left-back all season, you've not really had a centre defensive midfielder all season, you've had one striker all season who's been injured, Martial's disappeared off the face of the earth. Like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, do you honestly look at the Man United squad at the moment and think, oh, we should be challenging for the title? Like, I don't. I look at it and think, best case scenario, we might get top 4. Best case scenario. More realistic scenario is like 6th or 7th, which is kind of in and around where we are. We are level on points with Newcastle, who are 7th. So I just think that when you actually put context into our squad, into the injuries, obviously the takeover stuff going on, the Sancho situation, the Greenwood situation, like, I think Erik Ten Hag has done okay this season. Obviously, it's disappointing. Obviously, we want to be doing better than we are. I get that. But I think there's lots of other people to blame as to why we're in the position we are, why we've handed out ridiculous contracts to average players, why we're unable to sell any of these players because nobody wants to pay their wages. Like, there's so many other things that you have to highlight here than just saying, oh, Erik Ten Hag should be winning the league. Like, it's just not realistic. He overachieved last season. I think everybody in the fan base agreed on that. Nobody in the fan base expected us to win a trophy and finish 3rd last year. So why now suddenly, when we've had 10 or more players injured for most of the season, do we expect him to do better than he did last season when he overachieved? Like, it doesn't really make sense when you actually think about it. But then if you kind of put that aside and you're like, right, I want Ten Hag gone, that's fine. That's your opinion. You're completely entitled to your opinion. But when you look at the options out there as the replacement, you've got Thomas Tuchel. Yesterday, he was meeting with Bayern Munich. It looks like he's going to be staying at Bayern Munich next season, so he's gone. Then you've got Gareth Southgate. None of us want Gareth Southgate, but say you do want Gareth Southgate. The Euros don't finish until mid-July. The Premier League season finishes next week. So say you do want to go and sign Gareth Southgate, right? Say you're like, okay, Erik ten Hag's not good enough. Let's go and get Gareth Southgate. He wouldn't be able to start for 2 months. And then it would literally be like 2 or 3 weeks after he starts, the Premier League season would begin. So even if you want Gareth Southgate, even if he's the man, you think he's going to take us to glory, you still would have to wait two months until you can even legally negotiate with him. And Gareth Southgate is this kind of guy where he's not going to negotiate with another team whilst the Euros is going on. So that's him out of the window, right? Then you're down to someone like Graham Potter. Massive no. Graham Potter is not better than Erik ten Hag. Or you're looking at someone like Roberto De Zerbi, who obviously... I just don't think Roberto De Zerbi's better, personally. I honestly don't. If we're talking about someone like Carlo Ancelotti, obviously, yeah, he's better than Erik ten Hag, but he's never going to come Man United. I was listening to somebody on TalkSport earlier, somebody who called in, and they were just like, they were saying that they were saying that Erik ten Hag should be sacked and we should hire Carlo Ancelotti. And I was just listening to it thinking like, where did these people come up with their like opinions? To be like so Erik ten Hag out, and then when they're asked what their solution is, they say, "Oh, Carlo Ancelotti should become the manager." I mean, I want to be a millionaire, but I'm not. Like, I want to. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can want things, but it's not going to happen. And for them to say, "Oh, yeah, get rid of Erik ten Hag, he's rubbish," and then they say, "Who do you want to bring in?" "Oh, Carlo Ancelotti." Like, it's just crap. I'm sorry, and I think that a lot of people. Which is completely fine, all right? People have different levels of interest in football. Most people watch the games every week, and other than that, they're not interested in any of the... Like, they won't watch channels like this. They won't read the news. They'll just literally watch the game once a week and be like, we're not winning the league. We should be winning the league. Sack the manager. And I think it's people like this community, you know, where we sit and we talk about it every single day, and Manchester United is so engraved in our lives that we... take into consideration all of the outside factors, the injuries, the takeover, Sancho, Greenwood, Ronaldo, Anthony's domestic abuse charges, like all of these things that have happened to Erik ten Hag this season. You know, the lack of sporting director, the no CEO, like the list goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on, right? And I think that it's so easy for the mainstream media to just say, sack Erik ten Hag. But there's never a solution. And then even then they're like, oh, okay, yeah, bring in Gareth Southgate. And then, you know, the interviewer's asked, oh, so would you want Gareth Southgate at your club? No, I don't want Gareth Southgate at my club. It's like, yeah. What else have we got? Let's have a look at the chat quickly. KM says, what is your opinion on Zinedine Zidane? I think Zinedine Zidane would be a great option, but again, it's not going to happen. You know? Keith says, looking at the outgoings and potential budget, Man United may well have to sign Amrabat. The midfield next year could be Amrabat, Mainu, and Bruno. It worked really well. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I did like that midfield yesterday. I did. Somebody in the chat called Uzi says, Ten Hag is better than all of the managers we're linked to. I agree, mate. I do. He's not better than Carlo Ancelotti, but Carlo Ancelotti's not available. He's not better than Pep or Jurgen Klopp, but neither of them are going to come. Like, he's not the best manager in the world, but he's certainly better than what's out there at the moment. And that's why I think it would be absolutely stupid for Ineos to remove him now. He's got 1 year left of his current deal. We're going to have a proper sporting director, a proper CEO, a proper head of recruitment this summer. Give him an opportunity. If he fails, you know, if at Christmas we're 10th in the league, sack him. Fine. No issue with that whatsoever. But this summer, I want to see this massive clear out. Yeah, and that's what I'm hoping for. What else have we got? Okay, so we've talked about Ten Hag. You can let me know in the comment section whether you think he should stay as the manager next season. Moving on from that, let's talk a little bit about Mason Greenwood really quickly. So the headline this evening in Italy is that apparently Napoli are going to submit a bid for Mason Greenwood. Obviously, Juventus are interested, Atletico Madrid, Barcelona, apparently 2 clubs in the Premier League. Getafe seem to think that he's going to stay with them. It'll be really interesting to see what happens with Mason Greenwood. I think obviously a permanent sale would be the best for everybody. We need to get the money in. We need to then reinvest that money. It would be 100% profit. And yeah, that's what I would do personally. But let me know what you think. In relation to the massive clear out, obviously Varane and Anthony Martial said their final goodbyes to Old Trafford yesterday. Obviously, it's a shame that Varane didn't really work out as well as some of us had hoped. I think at points he was world class. But the issue with Varane was his availability. He was injured for 50% of our Premier League games since he's been here, which is terrible. Same with Martial. I think Martial showed such promise in the first 1 or 2 seasons at the club. And then stupidly enough, the Glazers gave him a new contract, and then he's just pretty much been injured since. He went off on loan. So those 2 players are gone. Martial, 250 grand a week. Varane, 340 grand a week. Those 2 players... those 2 players are gone. That's, I think, £700,000 a week in wages saved. So that's really, 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 really good. David says, did you see Ten Hag's post-match interview last night after the game? Even he is not sure whether Ineos are going to keep him. Yeah, I think that quote has been blown into proportion. He was more asked, what does the future for Manchester United look like? And he was effectively saying, I can't answer that now because we've still got games left to play. And I think people have seen that as he's saying he doesn't know whether he's going to be here next season, which I think is actually incorrect. But I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. I'll be back at 6 o'clock. If you have enjoyed today's video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. This has been Daily Red Devil. Have a great day, everybody, and I'll speak to you all later.